Now you may be wondering why I've got a set of spoons in front of my fish tank. Well, these spoons have quite an interesting story behind them, and that's why they were given to me, so I could pass it on. They're just ordinary fruit spoons, and they come from a set, and they are quite old. They are Victorian, and they were given to me by a neighbour, and she had a very good story to tell me. Now I moved to a small village in England and had a lovely neighbour. We lived in a old farmhouse that had been cut in half, so they lived in one side, we lived in the other side, and it had been once owned by my neighbour, and they'd sold it to us, the one half to us, and they lived next door. I moved there when I was about 17, and when I was 19 I got engaged, and when I was 20 I got married, and my neighbours came to my wedding reception, and the wife turned around and gave me this box, and inside this beautiful wooden box, velvet lined, with these spoons. And she said, the spoons aren't worth a great deal. She said they're second hand, and they were mine. They were a wedding gift to me. She said, but they do have an interesting story behind them. So she told me all about it, and her and her husband got married quite young and decided that they were going to not only have the adventure of being married, but also have the adventure of moving to America, and they were going to do that in style on a big ship called the Titanic. And they were quite excited about moving, and packed up a box and a crate that went to the docks to go on the Titanic, and then all was left was for them to pack their personal items that they would need on the voyage. Now my neighbour, she began to feel something wrong about going on the ship, leaving family behind. It was a big move for such a young couple to start a new life like that, and leaving family behind, and she just didn't want to go in the end. So her husband went to the docks, and lucky they could take their crate off. He took it home, and in the next day or so they watched the Titanic leave Southampton docks and go on its journey, and the journey never finished. And so she put away some of the presents and gifts that had been in that box and never really used them, and this set of spoons were one of them. And so I took them, and I never used them. I moved from the farmhouse to my own apartment with my husband and my daughter, and I put them away in a cupboard. And funny enough, we had a flood, and the box and the velvet case that they were in got destroyed in that flood. And so since then the spoons got moved from one drawer to another. I've never actually used them, they've never been used. And in this time, me and my husband decided to move country, and we tried for Canada, but that got difficult. So my husband was lucky enough to have a friend moving to America, and he got a job in America, and we packed up our cases and our crates, and we put everything in boxes, and everything was taken to Southampton docks and put on a large container ship to New York Harbour. And they arrived safely, and I unpacked them and again put them in a drawer in our house there. They moved to our other apartment, and now they've moved with us to Florida. Now maybe it doesn't seem very exciting to most people, but these actual little spoons here actually have been on the Titanic, if only for maybe 24 hours. And they never finished their journey to New York. But many, many, many years later they did. And here they are now. And I only found them again because I was looking for a unused piece of cutlery to anchor down a piece of cucumber in one of my tanks to get rid of some snails. And I found them again in the back of the drawer, and I thought, this isn't the place they belong. They need to be seen and have their story told, because I think it's quite an interesting story. And I thought I could tell them why people looked at my babies. I've put all my baby guppies in one tank now. These are the babies that were in the other two tanks. And I thought, well, now I've put the story out, I will pass these spoons on to my American grandchildren, and they'll be able to tell the story about really the little spoons that could, because they actually did make it to America in the end. And I think that's really quite a cool story.